Stuart's got to go do a bunch of weird technical things. Great reading coming up. Can you get that going, dude? Oh, God. Great reading coming up. Diane Jarvenpa, her newest book. It's on the table back there with Scott, available for purchase. A book by Walter Cannon, available at the table. All these writers. Sharon Schmillar's new book. I was at her reading a few weeks ago. This is brilliant. It's at the table. And The Life and Times of Tom Cassidy, Internal Rhyme, also there. And I was at Tom's reading for this book 3-4 weeks ago. It's probably the best reading I've been to, best reading I went to that week. Yeah, it's fine. Tributary, ain't it exciting? Here's a poem I wrote this morning, and So get off my back, because, yeah.
You're always riding my back, Ted.
Yeah. Thank you, Stuart. This is called Them Shoes. I'll bet you $1 I can tell you where you got them shoes. Now, I don't know where the blues was born, but I know some places where it weren't born. Weren't born in no office. Weren't born in no science lab. Weren't created by an arts administrator. Didn't come from no MFA program. Now, I don't know exactly where jazz came from, neither. But I can tell you some places it didn't come from. It didn't come from a laboratory. It didn't start with no musical theory. And it weren't learned from no how to jazz book. I don't know exactly where poems come from, because they come from everywhere. Poems come from them shoes, from the blues, the news, from day and night, left and right, from soup to nuts and corgis' butts and little maids all in a row. Now, I ain't no genius. I ain't no John Lee Hooker or Lao Tzu, but I'm old enough to know a thing or two. I figured out if a poem can come from anywhere, so can jazz and so can blues. It's like they say on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. I bet I know where you got them shoes. Now give me $1, 'cause I own the street, and you got them shoes right there on your feet. Scott's here, I'm going to do it again. That's right. Did you pay the late fee? Late fee? The late fee, yeah, because it's another $2. Diane Jarvenpa.
Thank you, Ted. Thanks for having me here with all these wonderful writers who are reading today, as well as who are sitting in the audience. I thought I'd just read a few from my new book, and it's called Shylands, and it's about Shyland, Shylands, shy people, and a few other things. So I thought I'd start with. Some of them were written during the pandemic, so this was definitely one. Again, the doves in the time of the pandemic. I have been hearing mourning doves. What is it about their calls that rescue a frenetic mind? The song's slow beat insists a mellow out, as if Donovan was singing from some rooftop, or the same way when Ray Charles offers as only he can, "Oh, what a beautiful morning," with the Count Basie Orchestra. There is no way you can refute that slow melodic truth. If any directive can be found from doves, it is make do, keep going. I do find endearing their whatever man approach to life. Nests made up anywhere, telephone poles will do. But their flight, all purpose in sudden ascent or dodge, most needed now. They survive in desert, drink brackish water, live almost as long as Jesus, though this is unlikely. 20 million are hunted every year. I find a weird hope in their returning here, a comfort in their deep allowance for approximation. Their song sounds a lament, maybe hunger or emergence of egg, or maybe not alarm or complaint. I admit As I feel their susurration into my very tired brain, I nod to their sigh of implausibility for something more than a slim wedge of hope. For it is like Ray says, the sounds of the earth are like music. Oh. So I'm kind of on a bird thing here. So I was at many robins in my yard today, so I thought I'd read this one. It's called Down to Earth. Robins are everywhere now, in the streets, in the elms, dead in my hands. The sky split and sent a male robin into the side of the house, there in the grass, pristine, just the way you'd find one in a natural history museum, well-groomed, not stuffed, but newly empty. And an instinct to will it back to life takes over. Which chance to offer which deity, what wound can be healed with doubt? If I believed in reincarnation, maybe I was holding a beautiful Bolivian farmer, Athabascan weaver, innkeeper at the edge of Lake Baikal, or once an ant, a worm best eaten. Who is to say connectors of worlds don't have brown wings that settle onto a spirit tree like papery blooms? We never know the many ghosts that hover, how grief spurs a different calculation as we try to hold on to a story even when it has cast off its own ending. Hollow bones are swept back to earth each time we bury a bird, offered to yet one more holy landscape where we bow down and spill our loss. So I come from ancestors that are very connected to nature and the earth, and this is a poem kind of about that. It's called Follow the Wild Spill. Her bones remember each hulking woods as she touches cattail, as others touch icons in an Orthodox church, attends cottonwood release of seed, the way some sit front row at the movies. What pushed her out of the womb to meet the natural world in stunned intoxication once she could pick up rocks? Let us count back generations to bitchy bogs, ice blinds, forest spears, naked nests, lonely lichen, barley flowers, clouds of smelt, milky swans. Unapologetic, her DNA steers her to mystery snails in stormy marsh. Starburst of mating dragonflies, dark wisdom and a village of toads. This is not riddle, but tug and instinct, raucous and sunstruck, the shimmer and the hidden, all found in agreeable valleys, up to her neck in the zephyr, the bobolink, field of cornflowers that take impossible grieving and convert it into cold, wild song. This one's called In the Office of Social Security. I love that people are resonating to that. There were those glass windows, openings sculled out for us to speak through, invitation to get it wrong. I got it wrong. The moon would get it wrong. Estimated life expectancy, a cyclical calculation, its chronic disappearance troubling. But in this room, there was subtraction. The old man with no legs, the young man with one arm, and then the woman that entered, no clothes, no utterance. When we turned our heads, the policeman covered her with a raincoat in the vestibule where she circled slowly on bare feet. She was kept just outside the warm government room filled with people fingering paper numbers like worry stones. There is hard knowledge in any dissent, in the vanishing point on the cardboard sign of the freeway mendicant, wedding a blessing of God and hunger with a magic marker. We are all lost dogs, riddles, spiders, all once enchanted children. Loss is a continuous wheel that has a difficult spin. Sometimes it cannot stop once there has been a push-off, a breakaway. The low roof of the building was good at stopping rain that day, while we all waited to explain our willful lack of disappearance, bowing our heads, talking through windows. So when we all could travel, of course, people are traveling now. I haven't been able to do that. But I went to Iceland with my daughter, and this is sort of what it's about. Souvenir. It is hard not to take a country with you when you leave. Mud on treads of shoes, mineral dust nestled into pores. It sits in your pockets with sharp rocks and strange words. Its taste, practicing new truths on the tongue. Its rain, absorbed where you are thirsty. The memory of its sun opening you up like a ripe piece of fruit. In this country, you try to leave something behind, new grief. You tuck it into your suitcase to then try to pack it down with hiking boots into black lava sand thick as coffee grounds. Toss it out into fields of moss green boulders, last rolled into place 300 years before. Drop it onto hillsides too profuse with wild lupin. They could surely hold another sad bruise of color. Release it into the sky with those turns that circle and dive near your head as you walk along a shell-crusted path towards a lighthouse with the world's smelliest dog and one lone sheep. But instead, you and your daughter place it gently into the field with the horses who eat the wildflowers and the sadness of strangers. And you sleep the sleep of a late-setting sun, a yellow bit of air you carry in your bones, a different kind of souvenir. So, am I done? Are you keeping track of time? Yeah, I think we read some more. Oh, okay. All right. I just thought I'd read this one. It's called How to Talk to Introverts. I don't think any of you are introverts in this audience. Poets tend to be introverts, but not all of us. How to talk to introverts. Begin as if it were night and snow dusts an overlay of moon, and you don't want to chase the shadow of a snowshoe hare. It may appear that they are not hearing you, but they hear more clearly than bats, better than moths. They hear wet wheatgrass bending under deer, the breathing of a shrew. They are rapt. They are listening. Sometimes it is better if there is a tree nearby or a river with pebbles. They like presence of other inventions of the world, raptures that are not just human. They are a bit of tumbleweed, easily pushed by wind, gather as they go. When they stop, they have collections of loss and dreams. Sometimes if you ask them, they will tell you about the drops of dew on the cattail, the way the orchard grows so many apples. Thank you. One more, I guess. So this is for my father. The poem is called Koivu, and there's a little epigraph. It says, "But then I will no longer be me, but the forest." It wasn't a music room, but it had that same unscrolling of subtle notes that hang in the air, that change your breathing. It wasn't a church, but there was a query of spirit in the way of prayers waving. It wasn't a boathouse, yet water was clearly part of its desire. A deep, secretive thirst lifted through the bones. It wasn't a season, but it did invite green singing of birds, seemed to intend that yellow be the color we slip over any new sorrow. It wasn't immortal, but being there beside it made you feel like a certain kind of labor took place you will never come to understand. An unequivocal wisdom, a language unknown. It wasn't a bridge, yet any child knew an invitation was being offered, connecting one world to another. It was a birch tree planted by a 45-year-old man on a slight hill in his suburban front yard, answering the call of his ancestors 4,000 miles away, who were known to take the bark to soften into the shape of shoes, bundle tiny spring leaves to set over hot rocks, drink the sap in a healing tea. My father dug a birch tree hole, his body remembering something long lost as he knelt there in the dirt. And he filled it with expectation of something bigger, something fluent, a bit of myth to pass by each day on his way to work, something pure, something gone wild. Thank you.
When I was a kid, before we had a TV, we had a radio, and I would sit in the evenings in front of that radio and listen to whatever was on, and it was mostly spoken stuff. It was before rock and roll, you know. And the voices were so soothing and true. And that's how I felt listening to Diane just now. Like, how can you write about Social Security office in a soothing way? It's amazing. Wow. Thank you, dear. His real name, Tom Cassidy, that's his stage name, a lot of you don't. His real name's Johnny Shakespeare, but he goes by Tom Cassidy because it sounds cool, you know. So, Tom Cassidy.
I'm usually very quiet and reserved or sleeping. I'm going to read pieces I wrote in the 1980s. And here I'm always looking through pieces to read, and I just read it. Well, I haven't read these in a long time, and I wasn't as quiet and laid back. I wrote this shortly after the space shuttle blew up in 1986. And it came down to the fact that there was a 7-cent plastic O-ring cover that was put in or manufactured improperly. That's almost like writing about the Social Security office, isn't it? Okay. It's called Falling Safe. My life is in your hands, that simply, your rabid logic, your dyslexic morality, one fluke stop at convenience store where a panicked switchblade abbreviates my future. I'm riding a bus downtown, minding my own business. Meanwhile, 6,000 feet up, a 7-cent plastic doodad unplugs aircraft, gravity yanks the rattling bird as stewardesses ask passengers to please return chairbacks to upright position, and one wise guy, wanting the last word, mutters, "Too bad we're not our luggage, we'd be on a different flight," and the pilot's voice is humoring, faint over the intercom. "If you look out your window, you'll see Portland like you'll never see her again," he says, "and if you want to ignore the no smoking signs, go right ahead." And my uneventful bus ride downtown is halted by a split-second image of a total stranger asking me if I mind if she smokes just 1/1000th of a second before she explodes. Our bodies pushed into macadam like thumbtacks. It's a fact the world's a stage we're going through. My life is in your hands, that simply. Your mysterious moods, your unharnessed id, your demented little secrets. One unplanned dip and I get your speedboat gnawing at my spine. I'm walking along, minding my own business, while you're preparing a chalk talk about the sports rifle for Cub Scouts, when suddenly you snap. I remind you of a prison guard, or worse, a postal clerk, and you lean out of your mind, get a bead on my insouciant smile, caress the trigger, feel your constitutional rights sucking at your neck, and you start to pull the trigger, but you stop, look puzzled, and say, your what kind of smile? And I shout back, insouciant, nonchalant, well, I look like a thesaurus, unbothered. Your thank you nod precedes the lightning apple-coring gadget into my forehead, a restacking of boxes in the brain, a stage robber. It's a fact. We constantly watch a replay of our lives. When we don't exist. My life is in your hands, that simply. My throat exposed to all knives, all paper cuts, all shoddy workmanship. My bulletproof vest is in the body shop for new lace trim. The night you decide to get high and mighty about the legitimacy of my poker hand. I'm watching a movie in a movie theater, minding my own business, when some wacko with shrink-wrapped cleaver bursts from the projection booth, sits down beside me and says, isn't it the greatest goddamn movie ever? I mean, ever? And I'm, yeah. And he starts to jabber loudly about this scene and that scene, and isn't that the actress so-and-so used to be on Fame? And I get annoyed, because I hate people who talk during movies. I hate people who go to a movie they've already seen so they can loudly proclaim, okay, here's the big part. And I hate wackos who make noise in a theater. And sure enough, this multi-wrench starts to unwrap his cleaver, stacks and do origami with each little length of pulled back cellophane, twisting and amplifying that crackle into satsang. And he says something like, this is great, isn't it? I say, well, yeah, I guess. And he says, it's bigger than the Big Bang, isn't it? And I say, well, it seems as ambitious. And he says, that's my role up there. That should be me up there. But they said I was unpredictable. Me, unpredictable. And I say, such injustice. As maniacal laughter whips out of hell, his bizarre face suddenly familiar, the cleaver blurry, my blood giving beatific sheen to his somersaulting lips. It's a fact. We're moving targets. And when we're not, we're sitting ducks. My life is in your hands, that simple. Your pain threshold, your blood sugar, your unmet needs, the extent to which you say God is controlling your machete, your bad attitude. There are fortune cookies exploding on impact, my future in smithereens. My wrists are so wrist-like, boastingly vulnerable, the veins so pronounced. I'm working on the assembly line, minding my own business. When a coworker sidles up and quips, the only thing I ever got for Christmas was a virus. And I laugh with them, happy for the diversion, sorting 7-cent plastic aircraft doodads without looking, glad to be alive. All right, see, that was kind of uplifting. Clearing out my mom's condo, because she passed away, and she lives in Lakeshore Drive condominiums, which in their community newsletter is abbreviated LSD. I just love that. And it's a concrete building, so you can't get any reception on anything. We've already cleared most of the stuff out, but I had a junky old radio, so I could listen to something while packing up. And I couldn't get a signal anywhere. I'm just getting that static, cackling noise. Finally, I found a place where I can get 2 stations. One was, I wrote it down, something news radio, the Bunker, the Patriot, where you get Glenn Beck and Hannity. And the other is Love 105. And it's all, I'm waiting for a girl like you. It's all these just really drippy songs. And I thought, well, at least Hannity, know what they're thinking, what they're talking about is conversational. You hear them, they're jabbering away about just crazy stuff. I couldn't take it. So I went to Love 105. And after 15 minutes, I went back. So I'm not a good person. I'm sorry about that. One other comment on the news lately, though, with the writer's strike going on, the Writers Guild strike, really? Their chant is, whose story, our story? I mean, if you're a civilian, that's not bad, but give me a break. They want, yeah, I was very disappointed. Okay. Okay, this is my soothing break poem, and then I read a crazy one. Sell me booze on Sunday, sell me beer online, sell me rum till 2 a.m., sell me whiskey anytime. Screw you for making me sober by slapping me at birth. Screw you for thinking thoughtfulness can possibly save Earth. Screw you for making me sober with art that's small and fat. Screw you for turning all the gods into copies of just that. Sell me booze on Sunday, sell me beer online, sell me rum till 2 a.m., sell me whiskey anytime, sell me weed on Sunday, sell me hash online, sell me meth till 2 a.m., sell me cocaine anytime. Screw you for making me sober with rent-a-cops and lies. Screw you for scanning everything that walks and talks and flies. Screw you for making me sober with your stupid unmet needs. Screw you for making shock and awe a nobler form of greed. Sell me news on Sunday. Sell me air online. Sell me luck till 2 a.m. Sell me Jesus anytime. Sell me booze on Sunday, sell me beer online, sell me rum till 2 a.m., sell me whiskey anytime. Sell me weed on Sunday, sell me hash online, sell me meth till 2 a.m., sell me AI anytime. All right. When I got to Minneapolis from Portland, roughly 1980, 81, I got a job as a draftsman. I put together publications for people at a drawing board where I had to do the blue lines. There was no computer, there was no InDesign. I had a T-square, I drew out my measurements, and I designed things in silk screen with a double-edged X-Acto that you had to work like a calligrapher. There was not a fire cross, a bar name, or a sports jacket where I lived that wasn't done by me. And I didn't know I had cultivated some degree of competency. I hated it, but I did it for years. So I had to mention in this piece, I mentioned a proportion wheel, which we used to know how to scale down for the pay stuff, and the blue pencils that wouldn't be reproduced if you put on a copy or sent to the printer, and a lot of the other things. So I thought, well, maybe people don't know what these things are. But I had migraines for maybe 12 years, and I didn't know I had migraines. I thought that's everybody who walks around in pain. And by the way, I still think that. But I had 2 surgeries where they had scraped out my entire one side of my sinuses had fully calcified. I wasn't breathing, and for that long. And the upside of that is after they cleared it out, I was high for 6 months. I never had that much oxygen. It was just startling to me, and I didn't know. So I wrote about that, about working at the drafting table and getting a headache and not knowing what to do about it. I reposition copy, add borders, subheads, my X-Acto knife a tugboat, paste pot slathered with bad estimations, I scissor to within 1/millionth of an inch of type. My head turns on me, throbs, clangs like a radiator. I squint to change pressure, focus, pinch my upper nose, and reflex. I see bottom of well racing towards me like a tumbling wish. A siren passes, my headache fades. They say take 2 aspirin, spray salt water up nose, don't stay up so late. I skim a press release, nothing sticks. I go through slowly, cross out first paragraph as unnecessary setup. The second is too much type and babble. I lop off the third as fat. I trim some more with my red, white, and blue pencil, realize there's nothing left. But the rendering that's good enough, though the caption's gotta go. Brain implodes. Slivers of thought pierce one another, self-fulfilling voodoo fear. Each second enters its own rinse cycle. I grab X-Acto knife and poke the blade into my scalp. An instinctive free-form acupuncture. Hell ebbs and the headache fades. They say, take 7 aspirin. Shove defoliants up nostrils with sewer-reaming snakes. Swing dead chicken overhead in cemetery. Don't stay up so late. I code and crop photographs, change frame of reference, redress facts. My proportion wheel, a magnificent pruning of what lingers from Mr. Dobelar's algebra class. It's surprising, sad that words and pictures are given and taken as facts. Brain mezzanine is walloped by a crowbar, slammed by sledgehammer, throttled by pushing and shoving molecules. My eyes spin madly to keep gyroscopic skull lolling in orbit. I lift the X-Acto, drive it into my head, no results. I yank and I nail it again, desperately, thoughts in rolling boil. The tool is stuck. I open supply cabinet and I grab another razor knife and I stick it into my alien sphere. I even pound in a non-repro blue pencil before chaos subsides, the headache fades. They say take 250 aspirin, that the recommended dosage is always conservative. Gobble blimp-shaped pills with polysyllabic names, move to an apartment underwater, scream if I need to, don't stay up so late. I have paper samples and ink samples and sample of each sample ink on each sample paper to show a client with a no to low budget for a brochure. I can see them selecting maroon on gray or burgundy on gray or dark brownish red on gray because that's the dress code nowadays. I smile at the wall. We want classy and distinctive, they'll say. Can we do it on shiny paper? Everything inside my head is detonated. Dashboard slams against cheekbones, meteors burn through face like bullets, subway collides head-on with chickenpox scar. I pluck X-Acto from the thick air and I slap it into position. I hammer it home with my fist until it's stuck. And then I drive another one home, and another, like ice picks, stakes. When I run out, I use technical pens, but the pain persists. I have no horizontal hold. All reality heretofore known but a case of cheap wine. I get spins from air, from being. I bang scissors into skull, a screwdriver, metal angle snapped off like a chair. I pounded a T-square, an entire rack of staples, sharp burnishing tools, a wooden door jamb, everything the least bit sharp until at last the planet returns to orbit. Headache fades. They say take 2 surgeons with a water back. Build a yachting research facility near the spit valve. Learn to live with the pain, embrace it, cajole it, and don't stay up so late. I walk into the hallway wearing a crown of objects, stuff sticking from my head like pretzel sticks in a cosmic cheese ball, the watery blood in pin-thin lines down my face, and I say, I'm cured! Thanks.
Now I know where Tom Waits gets his all his ideas. It's just like they teach it in Creative Writing 101. It's just, oh, God. Thank you, Tom. The last few weeks, I see people, they say, who do you have reading this month? And I say, oh, this person, that person. And I'd say Walter Cannon. Oh, Walter! Oh, wow! Oh, I can't wait. So let's not wait anymore. Let's bring up Walter Cannon.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks for inviting me. This is really something. I'm honored and pleased and hope I don't know. That's a hard act to follow, but I love voices, and perhaps inspired by the opening music, my first poem, we'll get right to it, is called Superman. See if we can do this. Later in Paris, outside the Pompidou, a tinny mistuned chord buzzes through a beat-up amp, and then I see the performer in a soiled Superman costume and his red, white, and blue guitar. He's banging away, volume clearly his goal, and he's singing something in a yelping monotone delivered with a vacant stare. Love, love me do! People move as far away as they can. But who's to say tunefulness is a virtue, harmony a prize, or what a lyric vibrato is beautiful? Some say Bob Dylan can't sing. What about Billie Holiday? The wood frog croaks like a duck on the edge of his pond. How must I sound to you? How must I sound to you? So I've been obsessed with voice and with sound and hearing and listening poignantly or made pathetically poignant by the fact that I'm losing my hearing in the upper registers, as many of us are. But in some of my other work, I've been interested in the soundscape of early modern stages. And so I'm curious about the soundscape, the American soundscape. And so I thought I'd do poems today that have some kind of reference to sound and the orality of voice, and wow, what a panoply of voices we have today. So this one is called Walking the Burlington Northern Tracks. We head north out of town, past the gas house, its tin-clad walls resonating, metallic hissing, the flow of redolent gas through silver pipes. But soon we are the only sounds we hear. Balancing like tightrope walkers, Bob, Stan, and I keep to the hot rails, not daring to look up, competing with no one keeping track for the longest run. We kick at the rusty spikes in the rotten sleepers and yank up our thick iron treasures, but one is so thin we twist off the head in our hands. The creosote sticks to our knees, and our hands are orange with rust. Steep banks of sumac flank each side, red fury to the cinders under the ties. Before the tracks curve into a broad October cornfield, we pass over a man-sized culvert and drop down inside, obliterating raccoon prints with our own dumb feet. Nothing's the same this afternoon. Even this hollow culvert resounds our voices as they curve back to us strangely, all sibilants. So I grew up in eastern Nebraska, about 20 miles west of Lincoln, kind of on the edge of the Bohemian Alps where Ted Kruser now lives. But it's right where the land flattens out and becomes a doormat to the Rockies for 600 or 800 miles. And so I grew up in this little town on the edge of the prairie. This poem's called, it's a line from D.H. Lawrence, not even a pettiness to expiate. It's from The Snake, keeping with the sibilant sound here. Dad was mowing the lawn with his electric mower, getting at some brush near the fence, where the neighbors' cockleburrs spread like sin. Mom was pruning the hedges and fruit trees under a stifling sun this Saturday in the garden. When I heard her scream, "There's a snake!" I ran for the door, grabbed the gun, slid in some shells. "Where is it?" "See it moving near the tree." Yes, something slithered, shiny black against the green. I aimed and squeezed, exploding noon into silence. The mowing stopped, and all I heard was wind rattling the cottonwood and my father's voice. "What the hell?" I looked down to see the ugly wound on the slender black skin and the raw copper wires exposed in the midday sun. What did I know then? A kid on the edge of a field, on the edge of a little town. Only luck prevented me from killing something sensuous, neither sinful nor frightening, not even a pettiness to expiate. It's a hell of a shot, though. That's why guns should be banned. Well, my father wasn't from Nebraska. He was from New York. Not at home in Nebraska. This is called My Father's Stride. The garage door closes, the back door slams. I ain't got nobody. I hear whistling and know my father's home. He hangs up his coat and lights up a smoke. Ain't misbehavin'. Blue eyes disappear behind a hazy cloud. Footsteps fall lightly, soft shoes down the hall. Supposin' tall elegance in khaki glides into the room. The bench squeaks once, his left hand lopes into chords. T for two. Long fingers stride over worn, uneven keys. And when he plays Stardust just before dinner, sometimes I wonder why I spend the lonely nights. The whole house hums with his sweet baritone. But that was long ago. And many years later, when it's nearly too late, I learn the names of all the tunes he played. Though I dream in vain, in my heart there always will remain. And I'm hearing Willie Nelson's cover of that anyway. No, he didn't. No, that's a good guess, but no, not him either. You can Google it. I Googled it the other day and promptly forgot it. It's somebody I should know, but I don't know. Okay, here's one. So in Gallery 242 of the Chicago Art Institute, you can find, or you used to be able to find, the Grant Wood painting American Gothic. And I went there some time ago to see this and discovered that the person who hangs the gallery, somebody has to do that, had a sense of humor. Because across from the Grant Wood painting are located a couple of Archibald Motley paintings, the African-American painter. So Nightlife and the Blues are right across from there. So this is called American Sonnet. What are they looking at, those two famous farmers? He with his overalls and she with her dark dress and thin ruffled collar, unrelentingly austere, maybe fraught with worry under that Gothic window, and that three-tined pitchfork stuck between them, as sharp and ready to work as his unblinking eyes. Is he looking at me or you with that sad and piercing moral gaze? When I sneak a guilty glance over my shoulder, I see them now. Across the room, in Archibald Motley's Nightlife, dancing, playing, and singing, and filling up their worried eyes with every shade of the blues. So I was reading somebody's kind of formula for writing the blues and said you couldn't, if you're from Minneapolis, you couldn't write the blues. I don't know if that's true. You could be depressed, but not. Okay. This one is called Lawrence Ferlinghetti Turns on the Lights. Oh, Lawrence, you turn me on. You sly boots standing there behind us on the sidewalk, waiting for city lights to open up, listening to us blather. And then as we were squinting into the dark poetry alcove, it was you who turned on the lights. Though I must confess I didn't know it was you until I saw your handsome picture on the postcard upstairs on the rack, guarding avantly all your poet pictures. Oh, Lawrence, you coney catcher of my mind and credit cards. I was so happy it was you. I bought 4 postcards, a nice one of you, a City Lights Pocket Poets anthology, a t-shirt for my kid. Oh, Lawrence, I didn't even have my fucking camera to reproduce this singular moment. It's true. We came early to City Lights before it opened up, and this guy bicycled up, was looking over our shoulders. We didn't know who it was, and he unlocked the door, walked in, and disappeared, and we're upstairs, and there he was. We did actually meet him some years later at a memorable restaurant gathering before a reading he had in town. That Chinese restaurant used to be in Dinkytown. I can tell you about it later. It was fun. All right, I'll finish up with this one. One of my favorite movies is Casablanca, and talk about a great American soundscape. There it is. You have all those great bogey lines, you know, here's looking at you, kid, and we'll always have Paris and what, and well, the song, you know, yeah. So, well, forget about that. There's this great little quiet spot in the middle of that film where the German waiter is talking to his wife. And he's chiding her for speaking German because they're going to go to America. Remember that little scene, quiet little moment? So after he chides her for speaking German, there's a little pause, and he says, "What watch?" And she says, "A watch." And he says, "Such much?" So it goes, "What watch? 8 watch, such much?" It's precious. So this is called Such Much. And it's a poem about post-war American foreign policy and the rise of cynicism. Such much. And if I came riding in on a white Charger from nowhere or Nebraska, a little scruffy, my long hair blown just right, and my coat hanging open, you know, casual like. So what about the senator's wife, the church funds, and the little coward? My shoes are polished and my fingernails clean. And if I was looking a little weary, got a light? World weary, that is, not from hard labor exactly, but from working through difficult choices, seeing through naive idealism, knowing finally you love Laszlo, sort of. Would I compare us to a hill of beans and send you packing for my gin joint? Thank you very much.
Walter Cannon, yeah. That was worth the wait. Bob, did you catch that thing about give me $1 earlier? You caught it, right? Yeah, okay. All right, good. I wanted to mention Ike Russell, prominent and very well-liked South Minneapolis musician who passed away a couple weeks ago. And a lot of you knew him, I think. And if you didn't, a lot of other people did. And I just want to mention his name, Ike Russell. He will be missed. And I want to thank Tom Cassidy. I couldn't do this without Tom. Tom's the backbone of everything. So, and Dawn, I'm helpless without Dawn. The goddess barista Linda over there. I don't know where she is, over there somewhere. I appreciate your help, Dave, the sax player. Love you, bro. And Scott back there at the book table from Eat My Words. Stuart and Alex in the control room, making everything, well, they kind of fuck everything up, but yeah, never mind them. And I got a great poem. I got a poem, if I can find it. It's called Trouble. I could say some things, but I don't want to get in trouble. I could write some things, but I don't want to get in trouble. I could do some things, but, then I might get in trouble. I could stand here quietly, minding my own business, but I still might get in trouble. I could think about some things. I could think about justice or injustice or freedom or slavery. I could think about love or lies or loss or loneliness or liberty. I could think about your body or my body or our bodies together, but that could lead to a lot of trouble. I could think about my life, my success, my failure, my loves and hates, goods and bads, but why trouble myself with all that? The trouble is, if I move from this spot, if I move an inch, maybe if I even breathe, it's going to cause some trouble somewhere, somehow, for someone. I'd like to find a way around the trouble. I'd like to find a trouble-free solution to all this. I'd like to free myself. I'd like to free you. I'd like to free all of us. I'd like to do something, but, you know. Stuart's over there, I figure I'm in trouble, so yeah, I think I'm going to lose this job. One of my favorite people on the planet, and one of my favorite writers on the planet, not you, Stuart, and with a new book, which I already told you about, and I love her and everybody loves her, and here she is, Sharon Schmillars.
Well, Stuart, I think you do a great job here. I do. But it's a tad cold. Anybody else chilly in here, or it's just me? Oh, good. That means I'm not quite as old as I thought I was. All right, so I'm going to read from my new book, Duet in the Little Blue Church, published by Noden Press, and Norton Stillman is here someplace. I can't remember. I can't see in the back. It's too light out there. So I thought, what am I going to read? I thought, well, I'll take a theme. I never really do themes, but I thought theme would work. And over the past week, I've heard 3 times about loneliness, and loneliness can cause you to die, physically or mentally. So I thought I'll read about loneliness or aloneness, which is not the same, but so here goes. We'll go down to the pits right away and get that over with. The robin's wife. She lives in the house beside a crabapple tree, the tree she loves, a snow-caked crab tree. Wind gusts through and the white stuff swirls from the boughs at the mercy of wind. And the many grays of February, the color of listlessness and her husband's passing. Mornings inhabited by silence and a state of cold, beyond cold, sundogs out. Movement making an appearance outside, her window is everything. There, a robin, plumped up orange breast, his buffer and flag, the weight of him lean bone and feather. His tail shivers, it's not a flit. In a landscape offering extinction, intrepid of him to call out, so they pass cold time. This is called On the Train to Milan, the conductor, Il Controllore. And it's in 6 sections, and each section is really a snapshot. On the train to Milan. He is not a cheat. Knee to knee in the railroad car, we balance books on our laps. His black, mine, a Berlitz. None of the phrases in it seem to apply. Still, he is kind, too kind, like a father or uncle. One who knows you cannot set off in a hot, turbulent world alone without luck as a companion. And that's why, he sighs, I must pay more. His gestures paw, huge, bosomy surcharges in the air. His face films with an afternoon of sweat, his voice the essence of sadness as he holds out his hand, prego, prego. It's a relief not understanding, but handing over the cash. It could have been so much more. So many other things gone wrong he could have noticed. It's enough he sat down with me, the foreigner. 2. He's too kind to be a good lover or cheater. His knee bones pull on his trousers twill, creased like his face. If he washed it, he might feel better. He leans forward, his hands sweating. What I understand is the sadness in his outstretched hand. What I understand is that essence of happiness in giving him, of all men, my money. 3. What is a small price to pay for dear, underpaid tenderness? 2-3 euros? To have a man on a train sit down beside you? Il Controllore is not a cheat. He balances his attentions with his duties. Listed in the black book on his lap, I pull out my Berlitz. I'm alone and illiterate in Italian. Already 2 counts against me. I understand his brown collie eyes, Prego, prego. I understand he'll stay as long as necessary. I understand I'm lucky I can pay. 4. Poor man, so upset, trying so hard, and I don't understand one word. He's saying, sighing, prego, prego, poring over his black opened book. 5. You must go out expecting to run into all kinds of weather. You must try to understand just because you are alone and can read somewhat Il Controlare's upset face, his brown drowning eyes, the opposite of happiness. His gestures and words go up in flame whether the source is understood or not. For you are in Il Controlare's section, and he is nodding over your opened purse, taking what he wants, and now, Signora, triumphant, he'll lead you over the next 100 kilometers into the future. 6. How is it a woman can sit alone? A woman of a certain age, and no one will see her. She looks out the train window. Il Controlore comes along, he in his once handsome blue uniform, he with his cap, his black book, and his scuffed shoes. He is the one who sits down beside her. Prego. He tries to explain in his language, which she doesn't understand, nor he hers, why he sat down. The woman of great imagination smiles at all the reasons of the heart that could be. None of his. His, he explains, opening the black book on his lap. His is a matter of surcharge. So there it is, like a pratfall, simply a matter of money, which she pays. And sometimes my voice tunes out. Am I speaking loudly enough to be heard? Yeah, good. Okay, good. This morning I woke up and I realized it's Charles III's coronation. I thought, Sharon, you got to deviate from your plan, because I have a poem on Charles I. So we're going to go back a little ways as soon as I can find the page number. 221. Back a ways in time. Well, I was trying to understand John Milton, and so I read some of the pamphlets that he wrote, political pamphlets. And on the back of one, it told who published the pamphlet. And it was, quote, London, printed by Matthew Symonds, next door, D-O-R-E, to the Gilded Lion, L-Y-O-N, in Aldersgate Street, 1649. Ain't that cool? That's really cool. So that set me off, and this is called On Milton's Political Pamphlets and the Measure of Time. As if the Gilded Lion would always be next door, D-O-R-E, ready to direct a writer's steps to the ancestor of photocopiers near Aldersgate's homely glamour. A fading lion, a sign above a pub store, a statue, its gilt fading. The present is so strong in its little day-by-day affairs, bringing down its lions, some days seems impossible. Symonds' client Milton, for example, hiding on a straw bed of fleas under a common stale coverlet. Oh, a republic had seemed so possible. Buoyed on the stream of his pamphlets, arguing against a monarch's so-called sacred calling. It seemed the Civil War had ended the dispute as if it wouldn't recur, in England or elsewhere, as if door could never be spelled D-O-O-R, as if life couldn't be summed up as an immense series of changing cruelties, preserving somewhat a tittle of civility. For appearance sake, Milton's parliamentarians sewed King Charles' head, chopped off head, back on for one last public display, using horsehair or wire for thread. But the inscrutable, that is, intrudes. Charles II ascends the throne, and Milton goes underground. Try understanding this when the world's in upheaval, and you only have a little bit of lead to hold on to. Oh, the printers, clever fingers, one bit for each letter in a word that, heavens, stays put. I didn't think this one would be appropriate, but since I'm so cold, I'm going to read it anyway. It's called A Christmas Story of a Sort. My husband's family, my husband, his sister, his parents were refugees from the Soviet Union. And my father-in-law loved to walk down alleys and see what he could pick up, because Americans throw so much good stuff away. So this is a Christmas story of a sort. For behold, Erica's Christmas cactus blooms again, long after her death and its journey to our house from her apartment, where the cactus flourished in the room's desert air, the way some refugees cross borders like years, arriving at a window after a long dark spell on a renamed street. In denial of the room landed in, a fire trap of cords, some snaking up a wall, some creeping along the baseboard, taped to a table leg on a hanger, a coquettish white slip clung to the gray seersucker suit found in the bundle from a rummage sale. Ich war einmal einselig. I was frivolous once, Erica sighed, as if time were fragrant or water sipped from a china cup in the German Academy in St. Petersburg. Oh, to stay in 1912, decades before a stroke did her in, before the world stood her up, turned frivolous twit into Putzfrau, arch-nosed bearer of an American rest home's shitpans. So who would have thought after a long, silent exile, a flowering would return to Erica's cactus with such éclat, risen on stems dry as Jessie's root, belting out protest at any absence of light in the world. Okay, I'll read two more. I'm going to read this one for you, Ted. Because Ted has reminded me twice he and I come from the same part of the Great Plains. All right, this is called First a River, and the river in question, or going to be talked about, is the Missouri. It's in 3 parts, so I'll only read 2. Glove-worn velvet, the West, At 12, I wrote my name and age in its closet. I knew its hills like friends, how they change blue, yellow, green, sentinels keeping time. I knew dust in hair, shadows in a living room, tragedies boxed and covered up, a warped sense of possession. I knew how in evening it cooled off, some rest on the forehead, some grace in quietness, some darkness coming over its shoulder. I've seen the river's plain and its gifts from the dead daughter, shells, birds, the white tail that makes its way through blonde grasses to drink at the shore. Pebbles and dirt underfoot, juniper musk carried on a chill May wind. Here and there, coves along the river, the charred remains of an evening's fire. Impossible not to want to light one if the creature you are is human, if it's night and there's driftwood at hand and you're with friends or alone and you're listening to the river pocked with age still flowing indelibly by. Thank you. Did I thank you all for coming? Thank you all for coming. All right. About 3 years ago, I got an email of a photo. It just came out of the blue. And it was a friend's marsh in winter. And I don't think there was anything else there except the name of the sender, who was Joyce Sutphin. So I'm going to read this poem for Joyce Sutphin. And it's called Photo of a Friend's Marsh in Winter. An uncut field of cattails in old bone yellow, born into growth, as if patient in the cold. Maybe a representation of center stage loneliness, a peculiar state of being alive, but not, dead, but not. Maybe a consideration of insular navigation, reeds without red-winged blackbirds. Enter stage left, a doe, ears alert, and her yearling, their part a tentative stepping out, counterpart to motion. Hooves in snow, the foragers have arrived. Their time here will be brief. It's an age-old plot on Earth to have little time to search and find before dusk falls. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Thank you so much.
See, I get kisses if I come here. So that's always.
Thank you, Sharon Schmillars. Before we wrap up, I wanted to, because Walter reminded me about Lawrence Ferlinghetti. I knew him really, really well, and I'm going to quickly tell you the story of how we met. It was about 25 years ago, and I didn't have any work. I just really kind of started writing, and I didn't have any work published anyway, any written word, but I had produced my CD, Close to the Cool. And, you know, it was great, and I figured City Lights has to carry it, you know. I mean, God, they're going to love it. You know, they'll sell 1 million of them. So I sent them a couple copies. Didn't hear back from them. I suppose they were probably just sitting in the back room listening to it. And but I have friends and family in the Bay Area, so I was going to go visit them anyway. So eventually I went out to San Francisco, and of course, right away I went down to City Lights bookstore, and I got a couple of CDs with me. And I go in, there's clerk at the desk there, and there's a couple people in line. And so I stand back and wait, and I'm going to tell him, I think Lawrence is expecting me. I'm this guy here, you know. But I didn't get a chance to because the clerk, I see he starts talking to somebody over here, and I look, and there's Ferlin Getty, not 6 feet from me. And so I went, and then he walked into his office. And we've had that relationship ever since. Thank you for coming. I love you guys. See you later.